After being dormant for over 2 years, it was time for the once great franchise to return to televisions and store shelves, first as a fully self-licensed knockoff and then as robots in disguises that totally weren't fooling anyone, but then there wasn't anyone to fool. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the History of Transformers, Part 2. This is the History of Transformers Part 2, so make sure you check out our previous Part 1 video to get you up to speed on everything prior to 1990. If you don't know how we got here, then you won't really understand where we're going. Transformers Generation 2, the second era of Transformers, began in 1990. Calling it Generation 2 retroactively assigned the name Generation 1 to the first era of Transformers, previously known simply as the Transformers. There was no way during Generation 1 to know that there would be a second generation, so there was no reason to differentiate it from whatever was going to come after it, since no one knew it was going to end at some point. Remember that? When Transformers ended? Generation 2 arrived in 1993 with a selection of recut Generation 1 cartoons, a completely unrelated comic book, and reissues of many popular G1 toys with new paint schemes and decal designs, clearly permanently identifying them as products of the 90s. Some new characters would be introduced, but the whole thing was just a placeholder until the real next era of Transformers began. Transformers Beast Wars began in 1996, featuring some of the names you remembered from Generation 1, but completely redesigned and reformatted beyond recognition. Yes, they were still two spacefaring alien robot factions at war with each other, but instead of machines, instead of cars and trucks and cassette players, they took on the forms of organic creatures, dinosaurs, bugs, cats, giraffes. Of course, this raises the question, if Transformers could have taken on the form of organic creatures to disguise themselves, why didn't the original Transformers take on the forms of humans when they awoke on Earth instead of cars and trucks and cassette players? The answer, of course, is obvious. If you're from a species of biomechanical aliens that change into vehicle forms, you probably would have thought that the cars and trucks were the dominant species on the planet. But Beast Wars demonstrated that transforming wasn't just for robots in disguise anymore, now it was about robots in defense. The two factions were searching for a planet rich in energon to fuel pretty much everything associated with their robot alien lives. Finding this new planet was kind of a good news, bad news thing. Turns out it was so rich with energon that the radiation would mean certain death to the robots after just a few minutes of exposure. To keep themselves safe, both factions had their bodies reconfigured to assume the forms of the various creatures native to the planet. It's kind of like putting on a tie when you go to the office. It doesn't suddenly mean you have any idea what you're doing, but it is enough to keep people from asking too many questions so you can just blend in until it's time to go home. No more Autobots and Decepticons, now it's the Maximals versus the Predacons. Maximals are the good guys, Predacons are the bad guys, but you probably got that from the names. Marketing is pretty good at approving names for stuff that makes it clear to the target audience what's going on. Maximals by their nature want to give peace a chance, and Predacons want to conquer and enslave. Autobots, Decepticons, Maximals, Predacons, different names for the same thing. War can't tell the difference. War does not discriminate. Different names for the same thing, except for in such cases as there exists a need to maintain the value built up in the brand. Swapping out Maximals for Autobots is no big deal, but you can't call it Transformers without Optimus Prime and Megatron. You can. You can do whatever you want. While Beast Wars is a canon sequel to the Generation 1 series, the Optimus and Megatron in this series are not the same characters. Both characters take their names and parts of their personalities from those original characters, but they are distinctly separate beings. Where this Optimus and Megatron are from, the original Optimus and Megatron have long since passed away. Initial reaction to Beast Wars was, is this right? Negative? From people who grew up with Generation 1 Transformers? I am shocked to learn that fans of a major pop culture brand would react so quickly without first giving it a chance to prove itself based on its own unique creative merits. I'm shocked. That said, I was one of those who looked at it and said, no, thank you. Transformers should be cars and guns the way that the transforming alien robot god intended them. If Robot Alien God had wanted them to be animals, they would have been animals from the beginning, and there were none except for the Dinobots, Insecticons, Predacons, Seacons, Ravage, Laserbeak, and some of the Headmasters, Horicons, and Terracons.
Gigantic gorilla Optimus Primal transforms with double cannons firing. T-Rex Megatron transforms with pulverizing claw and twin missile launchers. Each sold separately.
To recap, robot animals that look like robot animals are fine. Robot animals that look like real animals are weird and hard to wrap my head around. I can't reconcile all the hair and guts and skin and stuff. Maybe they're just like the robots at Chuck E. Cheese? Hey! Some of the negative pushback was due to the complete reconceptualization of the franchise. Some of it was due to the quality of the computer-generated animation in the series. At the time, CG animation was still in its developmental stage, and while it was passable for video games and light years ahead of the computer-generated animation that came before it, it was offensive as full-length animation to longtime fans with standards for their cartoons about transforming alien robots. But apparently no one asked those disenfranchised fans, because the series was nominated for and won an Emmy in 1998 for Outstanding Achievement in Animation. Big whoop, Robot Chicken has 3 of those. Beast Wars ended in 1999, giving way to Beast Machines. Beast Machines is the next logical step in the evolution of the Transformers as a brand and as alien robots as the part organic Transformers returned to Cybertron. From the beginning of G1 in 1984, fans of the franchise had been asked to consider the degree to which the characters were organic versus technological. Are these strictly robots that have become self-aware, or is there more to the nature of their physiology and psychology than just nuts and bolts with advanced, highly sophisticated programming? Beast Machines also pushed forward on the long-form narrative nature of Beast Wars, taking on the structure of a novel broken into 26 chapters. It attempts to take on higher concepts like life and death, religion, spirituality, the duality of creatures as both a thing and potentially possessing a soul, something that is deeper and more everlasting than this crude matter.
Oh, that's deep.
And not jokingly, very seriously, with character development, dialogue, and situations that challenge the characters. Megatron rules a cold, precise, fuel-efficient technological planet where Optimus fights to restore the organic nature of his fellow Maximals and Transformers as a race of beings. The long-form narrative has its pros and cons. Pro, more lasting and impactful character development. Con, it's hard for new fans to pick up midstream since the story arcs were carried throughout the series. Beast Machines, is this right? Beast Machines was met with negative initial fan reaction. This is my shocked face. Today, however, is considered by fans to be one of the heaviest, darkest series in the Transformers franchise, and that includes the movie where Optimus tore that guy's face off. While it was a substantial achievement from a creative standpoint, it's not the one that got picked to be turned into a Brazilian dollar movie franchise. Generation 1 wins again. What's the future look like for Beast Wars? In June of last year, 2017, Transformers movie producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, when asked about the potential for a Beast Wars movie, responded, quote, "I'm probably not the one to be asking that question to because I don't get Beast Wars. But, you know, thankfully, I'm not the only vote on it. I've never quite understood. They kind of feel like incompatible to me. You have animals, robots, we're used to cars." Whew. Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, share this video, and if you're in the position to help the channel grow, check out our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy and let us know in the comments below if you really think there's any chance of a Beast Wars movie getting made. I want Beast Wars fans to be happy, but I just can't imagine that movie ever getting made. Maybe if it was set in the present, but set in a world of volcanoes and trees and stuff?
I don't know how to answer.
Has there ever been a movie with volcanoes?
Volcano.
Trees?
Tree.
Both?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Bye.